Hi guys, back again, this time talking about police integrity and ethics. So we've talked about corruption, we've talked about police culture and how that sustains corruption. Now we're talking about the things that hopefully try and regulate these issues in everyday police work. We can see that there's a whole bunch of issues related to this. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail about it. I just want to quickly skip through it. You can see that we've got a lot of slides in this presentation, but I just want to give you a general sense of how this all works for you. And I use a lot of cartoons in this particular lecture because it demonstrates, again, the key issues that I'm talking about. So what is police integrity? It's something that is embedded very heavily in policing, and I'd argue that there'd be very few police organisations that would actually not have integrity as part of their vision or overall mission of the police ways of doing things within that organisation. So we've just got a general definition here, the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles. And we can see on these slides here that integrity actually informs what happens within those police organisations. So we've got the Police Integrity Commission of New South Wales, so it's a separate commission where police complaints are referred to, and they investigate these complaints from outside the policing organisation. And then we've got here in the AFP, we can see integrity has been thoroughly embedded into the values and culture of that specific organisation. So Westmoreland actually defines integrity as the way personal morals, sometimes called ethics, are described or put into action in professional life in the sense that such behaviour can be described in terms of, for instance, a specific disciplinary code. So this is the specific definition that she uses, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. So Clockars et al., I hope I'm saying that correctly, come up with 6 aspects of professional integrity. There's this notion of normativeness, a shared belief which is morally charged, combined with an inclination to behave in accordance with that belief. There's also the inclination to resist, which is where attitudes are not always predictive of behaviour. So someone might have attitudes about how it's not appropriate to be racist, but then their behaviour doesn't reflect those attitudes on the ground. So people might do things that are wrong according to these notions of integrity, but a requirement to be honest may cause the adoption of a belief in the virtues of integrity overall. These things are quite complicated, so I apologise if they're not making much sense, but I just wanted to give you a brief overview of them. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail. There's also the element of police as an individual or a group, where definitions of integrity may differ depending on whether or not you're describing police individuals or police groups. Temptations are obviously a part of this. They work in differing environments, and misconduct is motivated by gain from that which is not, such as excessive use of force, for example. So, obviously it's not a gain to use excessive force on somebody, but they consider that to be a gain because they get the situation under control, or they get some outcome from using that excessive force. Abuse of office is another one, including gifts, gestures of goodwill, using legal discretion, such as whether or not to arrest or issue summonses to friends or even to colleagues in that instance. And of course, the rights and privileges of the occupation. It's an occupation that's ripe for misconduct with unsupervised working and that code of silence that I was talking about in relation to police culture and how that protects corrupt people. Integrity impacts police legitimacy. Murphy and Cherney talk about this, the fact that cooperation with police doesn't happen unless we have police legitimacy. So the degree to which police are, demonstrate integrity will influence that heavily. Police legitimacy is the belief that police are entitled to call upon the public to comply with the law, because the public sees the police doing their job and they think, well, they're doing a good job, and they see them as a legitimate organisation doing good in the community. If they don't have that vision of police, then they're likely to not see police as being procedurally just and not see them as being a legitimate organisation. We can see this demonstrated hugely in other contexts. Again, America is a great example of this, blah, blah, blah. If people feel they are treated fairly and decently by police, they are more likely to comply with officers' instructions. So it's pretty important for us to think about integrity in relation to how police do their work. Having said that, policing does tend to operate in a netherworld just beyond the limits of respectability. And I love that quote from Waddington for perfectly summarising these types of issues. What guides police culture? Because we've talked about police culture. What actually guides this? Ethics guides police culture. So that's what I'm going to talk about now. We have this idea of an ideal ethical police service, but there are different models of how we think about this. Some people just say things like there's no corruption, there's honesty, there's restraint in the use of force, there's no incompetence where officers are genuinely making dumbass decisions, like the officer in America who took a whole bunch of money and stolen goods off a person that was fleeing the scene of a crime, had an accident, was dying on the road, and forgot that his dash cam was on and it recorded the whole thing. So competence is it's not necessarily a great idea for police officers. No acceptance of gratuities. So this is what we have, the idea in our head that we have of an ethical police service. Integrity, no us against them, and that cynicism us, the community hates us, they're just a bunch of louts, blah, 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 this type of stuff. Everything done in private would be done as if it was done in public, and we'd have this notion of the golden rule of policing, which I'll talk about in a minute, where we genuinely do policing in a way that we would want done to our family or our friends, or indeed to us. Policies are formed on the basis of this notion of justice. Mistakes are treated as opportunities for learnings, and there's no bigotry. Now, this is held up as this ideal understanding of a police service that would be ethical, but this doesn't always happen, and it's not 100%. It's almost impossible to achieve this 100% of the time for whatever reasons it might be. So that example I talked to where the officer went to a 16-year-old's pool party and sat on the young girl, clearly using excessive force, this would be a great example of a circumstance where something has gone horribly wrong. And obviously this officer was under extreme pressure and stress at that particular time to be able to even think that that was okay in any way, shape or form. So to think through this a little bit more, I like to give people tools. And one of the things that I do give you here is a model for thinking about police ethics. It's an ends means test. Now, this is not foolproof, but it certainly does give you a way of thinking through circumstances which you're presented with as an officer, for example. Is the end good? No, then you stop. You don't keep going. If the end is good, yes. Can the means work? If it doesn't work, then no, we don't continue to go. If it does work, is there a less harmful alternative? Yes, then we go back and we think about that again. No, then, so as a less harmful alternative, do we need to use excessive force in this instance to get the situation under control? That's that key question. No, then we move forward a bit more. Then does it undermine some equal or important value? So if we need to use excessive force on this person because they're threatening people's lives, because they're going to blow themselves up, or because they're going to shoot a whole bunch of people, or that they're driving a car through a crowd, these would be circumstances where we make a decision based on that. So clearly that undermines the value of human life. So if that person's actions are doing that, then we need to use excessive force. Does it undermine some equal or important value? No, in the case where someone is threatening people's lives, then we proceed. Yes, if that person's just standing there and they're having a mental health crisis, we clearly don't need to use excessive force in that instance. We can use other means. So then we stop and we go and we do something different. So this is just one little way of thinking through those types of decisions. Having said that, sometimes you guys have seconds to make these types of decisions if you're thinking about going into a policing career. So that's obviously not going to be something that you can do in those types of circumstances. Think through that whole process. But it is a good little model. Another model we have is, I meant to say, I've literally just described this point. An ends means test doesn't necessarily come easy when we're making those instantaneous decisions. They often may have to make instant decisions, and correct training will ensure that prop officers make the right decisions if they have the time. But sometimes that doesn't necessarily happen. In other ways that we can think about ethics is thinking about the police organisation as a whole. And Nehru and Beckley have put together this model of what they consider to be good policing: respect for personal autonomy, beneficence and non-maleficence, most importantly, this notion of justice and how we uphold people's human rights, the responsibility of the police officers and ways in which they justify their actions, using this ethic of care in everyday working relationships with people, upholding honesty at every possible point that they can, and ensuring that they work through this notion of stewardship, which emphasises the idea that trusteeship over the powerless and over police powers is something that can be, we can trust police to do those types of things. We do have human rights frameworks that undergird how we do policing in different ways. We can see this in Article 4 of the Ethics for Law Enforcement stuff that we talked about in another lecture. The law enforcement officer shall be mindful of his responsibility to pay heed to the selection of means in discharging the duties of his office. I don't like the gender language in this particular framework, but that's just the way that they've worded it. We've also got the Council of Europe's European Code of Ethics. We've got the International Association for Chief of Police Officers, the Canon of Police Ethics. We've got the Human Rights Standards for Police Actions at the OHCHR. There's a whole range of different frameworks that inform the way that we need to think about police integrity and ethics in an everyday basis. We also have these things called ethical dilemmas, situations in which individuals don't know what the right course of action is and they have to make a decision. They have difficulty doing what they consider to be right, and that they find that the wrong choice can be very tempting. And of course, there's a whole range of different categories of dilemma. Discretion is one of these: duty, honesty, loyalty, all of these types of things. So it might be circumstances where the police literally don't have any action that they can put into play. So it might be a situation where homeless people with children have been turned away from a homeless shelter for the night. They genuinely don't have anywhere else to go. The ethical dilemma is the police officer can walk away and say, well, this is not my issue. I'm not a social worker. I can't do anything. Or they can genuinely stay on a bit longer in their shift and try and help those people go somewhere and find a place to stay. There's also other circumstances where, victims of crime have been left without sufficient resources to survive. And again, it's a genuine decision that a police officer can make. They can walk away at that point and leave those people without those resources, or they can take that little bit of extra time and care to work through notions of human rights and the ethic of care that I was talking about before, so that they connect them up with services so they have the capacity to survive. So these dilemmas come up a lot, and I've actually given you a discussion board process this week to think through some more of those dilemmas. But just to talk about a couple of these, conflict of interest is a very common one. I've got a really corny cartoon here which clearly demonstrates conflict of interest in a different context. This is when one's public duty conflicts with one's private interests. So officers are required to act on suspected criminality, but their personal interests reduce their ability to be unbiased in that circumstance. Would you charge your mother and father with stealing? Would you charge the police commissioner with drink driving? All of those types of things. If we are all equal under the law, we are actually legally obliged to issue these fines. But there are circumstances where people genuinely make decisions about using their discretion, which probably shouldn't proceed in the way that they do. So, officers also must enforce the law regardless of how this conflicts with their personal interests. So in a lot of jurisdictions at the moment, we still have legislation around sex work and the ways in which sex work needs to be, it's considered to be an illegal activity for whatever reason. It's completely daft, in my opinion, and a lot of other people agree with this. Academics across the world have been arguing for so many years about how it is absolutely, utterly harmful to criminalise sex work, yet they still continue to have legislation in place which does that. And it is exceedingly harmful for the workers involved. These are considered by a lot of officers to be victimless crimes. They think sex work shouldn't be criminalised. Sorry, folks, I'll get it out eventually. But it is criminalised in their state. So that means they actually still have to enforce the law, regardless of whether or not it conflicts with their personal beliefs, which is pretty problematic. So there's also things where we've got frameworks for analysing ethical issues. Some issues that you might want to think about. What does the law require? You should have lawful power, obviously. What does the organisational policy require? And there's a plethora of information in different police organisations around this stuff. What does your personal ethics require? How are you going to deal with people on an everyday basis? And there is a little practical model of ethical decision making that helps you think through this stuff. Most importantly, is it legal? Will I be violating a law or a criminal law or a force policy if I go through this process that I'm about to do? Is it balanced? Is it fair to all concerned in the short and the long term? Does it promote a win-win situation? And quite frankly, quite often it does not do this. And they genuinely make a decision to proceed based on the notion that it is definitely a win-lose situation. Most importantly, and this is a question that I genuinely believe that officers in a lot of contexts do not think about a lot. How will I feel about myself? Will it make me feel proud? How will I feel if the decision was published in a newspaper? It's the old, there's a particular terminology for it and I've forgotten it. The newspaper headline way of thinking about things. If this was on the front of the Courier Mail or the Mercury, how would I feel? Because you can almost guarantee that there's going to be someone taking a mobile phone, whatever, of what you're doing at that particular point. And if they reasonably suspect that what you're doing is inappropriate, they will go straight to the papers. Most importantly, would I feel good if my family knew about this? And dealing with people, how would you like your family to be dealt with? And this actually links to the next thing that we talk about, which is the golden rule of policing. The Northern Ireland Police Service actually has this embedded in their code of ethics. Police officers are to treat the public in the way that they would wish an officer to treat them or their own family. And when carrying out their duties, they have to protect human dignity and uphold human rights. There are very few police organisations that actually police in this manner. So it's an exceptional example of this. So the ways in which we actually try and ensure that these ethical processes are upheld and things like that is through different forms of police oversight. We've got things like codes of conduct, we've got legal frameworks, we've got external oversight bodies that emerge out of royal commissions and so forth, internal professional standards units, and then, of course, evaluations of police integrity, which are things like the Fitzgerald Inquiry and, of course, royal commissions. So there's a whole range of different things that we can do to ensure that there's oversight of these different forms of ethical codes and processes and thinking and decision making and all of those types of things. There's also other things that we can do. There's early warning intervention systems with officers who have, histories of misconduct. Alarm bells start to ring. We can monitor those histories and we can act on something before something really bad happens. Then we've got use of force reporting systems, or they modify use of force policies on the basis of specific incidents that come to the attention of organisations. So if officers are required to report their use of force, they may be more reluctant to use it. We've also got processes in place where organisations generally make the decision not to use guns. The UK is a classic example of this. They don't have problems with police officers shooting people because they're not allowed to use guns. They're taught high-level negotiation skills, and they have to implement those negotiation skills in every possible circumstance that they believe is necessary. And then, of course, we have civilian complaint processes that people can go through. We also have things like body cameras, which is demonstrated in this particular little cartoon that we'll talk a little bit more in other units. But the degree to which these things are socially just is questionable, because you have circumstances where an officer will have used the camera, who knows that it's recorded something bad. They'll go back and they'll delete the footage before it's uploaded to a centralised server, and therefore there is literally no record of that instance. And they'll say something like, well, the camera malfunctioned and it didn't record. So all of these things are different things that we can do to ensure that ethics and integrity are upheld in policing organisations, and to try and encourage ethical thinking behaviour from police officers in different ways. Anyway, I hope that was helpful and that you got a little bit out of it. I shall chat to you all again really soon. Have a great week. See ya!